Top 7 Best AMD Motherboard in 2022. Through extensive research and testing, I have put together the list of options that will meet the need of different types of buyers. So whether it's price, performance, or particular use, we have got you covered. For more information, I have put links of products in the description. Make sure to check it out. Like the video, comment, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. Number 7. ASRock A520M ITX/AC. Look at it. It's so little. The ITX form factor has a dedicated following, and the ASRock A520M ITX/AC definitely seems to think so. With the ever-increasing integration of functionality into the chipset, there really isn't a need for multiple PCIe slots like there has been in years past. Does a typical gamer need more than one slot for a graphics card? If the board has Wi-Fi, LAN, USB 3.0, and decent audio, most of the core bases are covered. AMD budget Ryzen motherboard chipset, the A520, has largely slipped under the radar. While B350 and B450 motherboards were mainly regarded as entry-level, A320 was strictly seen as resolutely low-end. The introduction of B550 motherboards opens a new tab, and their associated move upward in price left a big hole in the sub-$100 market. Enter the A520. If you're on a tighter budget and don't care about PCIe 4.0 or the overclocking support offered by B550, then the A520 motherboards might be exactly what you need. There's cheap, and there's cheap, but a decent A520 board can more or less do everything a board at double the price can. Number 6. MSI B550M Mortar. When it comes to gaming performance above all else, MSI Micro ATX B550M Mortar is your best bet for an affordable next-gen Ryzen machine. It comes in around the $160 mark, making it cheaper than a great many X570 and other B550 motherboards on the market right now. At this price point, something has to give, of course, and the MSI B550M Mortar is conspicuously short on luxuries. There's no debug display, no physical power or reset buttons, no RGB lighting. Of course, none of those things make any difference in game, and it's easy to argue the $100 saving over a premium B550 board like the Asus ROG Strix B550E gaming can therefore be invested where it really counts, in a better graphics card. That includes memory DIMM slots with clips at both ends and a user manual that feels a little dated and clunky compared to the relative polish of Asus. You can't say that, however, of the MSI B550M Mortar BIOS menu, which is slick, friendly, and full-featured. Number 5. ASRock X570 Phantom Gaming ITX/TB3. This motherboard is small and mighty. Just look at it. There's so much stuffed onto the ASRock X570 Phantom Gaming ITX/TB3's tiny PCB. I dread to think how the PCB design and routing process went. That effort hasn't been wasted, though. This is an excellent motherboard that fans of small form factor PC builds are going to love. ASRock has made some great AMD Ryzen motherboards over the years, and this one packs in the latest high-end X570 chipset, forward-looking features, and serious performance. The $200 plus price point might be a bit tough to swallow, but that's often the price you pay for cleverly compact machines. It also must be said that plenty of X570 motherboards sit at around that sort of price, even full-size ATX ones. The fact there's almost no mini ITX premium attached makes the Phantom Gaming ITX/TB3 even more tempting. The PCIe 4.0 support isn't the only advanced connection on offer with this ASRock AMD motherboard either. There's also Thunderbolt 3 connectivity from the integrated I/O shield of the back panel. That's an impressive little added extra from what is an already special board. Number 4. Gigabyte X570 Yours Master. The X570 chipset might be a couple of years old, but that doesn't mean it's time to put it out to pasture just yet. That's precisely what Gigabyte has done with the X570 Yours Master. It shares a lot in common with its already highly regarded 2019 predecessor. With the inclusion of some critical feature updates and design tweaks, the X570 Yours Master should remain a best-in-class contender for AMD motherboards. A 15W TDP combined with the heat of several PCIe 4.0 drives meant that active cooling was required in many cases, though thankfully not all the time. The SN-X570S denotes silence. The base chipset design hasn't changed, but Gigabyte has added a lot of surface area to the cooling assembly, with almost the entire bottom half of the board now covered with heatsinks. Gigabyte deserves credit for continuing to use FinVRM heatsinks, which add a lot of surface area. They are proof that it's possible to blend function with form. We're not only impressed by how the VRM cooling looks on the X570S Master, it showed in testing. With PBO enabled on our 5800X processor, we saw a peak VRM temperature of just 48 degrees C. That's a full 5 degrees C cooler than our recent test with an ASRock A520 PG Riptide. Number 3. ASRock A520 PG Riptide. If you're looking for a sub $200 AMD motherboard, opens a new tab. The typical advice would be to look at one of the many quality B550 offerings. It's important not to overlook the new X570 versions, though the basic chipset is a few years old. But with the newly released X570S models, maybe it's time to take a more serious look at AMD top boards. Notably, the S in the new X570S nomenclature denotes silence. Early generation X570 boards, with only a few exceptions, all came with pesky, whiny chipset fans. As well as passive chipset cooling, the new X570S boards enable upgraded connectivity options, including faster than Gigabit LAN or Wi-Fi 6E. Sadly, the ASRock X570S Riptide doesn't have Wi-Fi 6E, but it does have an excellent price for a top chipset board. The X570S Riptide may not be what you would call a feature-packed board, but it does have most of the important features you will need to run a top-spec gaming rig. Only one of the two M.2 slots is covered by a heatsink, though in fairness, an increasing number of high-performance SSD models are being shipped with optional heatsinks these days anyways. The rear I/O is reasonable for a board in this price range. There's an empty bracket reserved for Wi-Fi antennas, plus a PS/2 combo port, CMOS clear button, and a welcome HDMI 2.1 port for use with one of AMD's upcoming 5000 series APU. There's also a standard set of audio ports including S/PDIF, but sadly, it's driven by the aging ALS897 codec. It's outdated in 2021 and doesn't belong on anything other than budget city boards. Network duties are handled by a killer E3102.5G controller. Pure Gigabit is disappearing fast, and not a moment too soon. There are 8 USB ports made up of Type A and C USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, 4 Gen 1 ports, and 2 2.0 ports. All in all, it's a good selection of ports. Number 2. MSI MPG X570 Gaming Pro Carbon Wi-Fi. The MSI MPG X570 represents an amalgamation of bleeding-edge motherboard tech, built to help you get the most out of AMD high-end Ryzen 5000 processors, such as the Ryzen 9 5900X, opens a new tab, or Ryzen 9 5950X, opens a new tab. Of course, you could pick up something cheaper and still unlock most of those chips' performance, but MSI is also throwing in a stylish look, plenty of connectivity, and rock-solid VRM. The MSI MPG X570 has 4 DIMM slots that can handle speeds up to 4400 MHz, although there's not much point going beyond DDR4 4000 and 2 PCIe 4.0 M.2 slots. MSI MPG X570 is all about getting the most out of the best components. Be that high-end DDR4 RAM, opens a new tab, or NVMe SSD, opens a new tab. The rear I/O panel features 7 USB Type-A ports for peripherals, as well as a single USB Type-C port for connectivity and high-speed data transfer, so you won't go without precious ports for at least a week. Also of note is the HDMI port, which many X570 boards omit. Not that we'd recommend using an AMD APU with integrated graphics in a high-end board like this. Number 1. Asus ROG Crosshair Roman 8 Dark Hero. Asus ROG Crosshair Roman 8 Dark Hero wants to be the last M4 motherboard you'll ever need. It incorporates all of the 4+ years of BIOS updates, PCB, and electrical layout tweaks into what should be a mature and refined package. Importantly, unlike early X570 boards, The Dark Hero was designed with Zen 3 processors actually on hand during the design phase. The Dark Hero features a rather subtle design. Some might even say it's a little bland. Perhaps we have reached peak RGB, with recent motherboards being a little more discreet with their RGB implementations. It's also unusual that there's not a Crosshair Roman 8 Apex or Extreme, especially when Gigabyte and MSI have boards priced well above the Dark Hero. A $400 USD motherboard can never be described as cheap, but compared to the exorbitant prices of the MSI Godlike and Gigabyte Eos Extreme, it certainly feels more affordable. The layout of modern ATX boards tends not to vary too much these days. The primary M2 slot is sensibly located above the PCIe slot. The second slot at the bottom also features a heatsink. The sockets are easy to access without having to remove the entire heatsink assembly. Also notable, no chipset cooling fan. Hooray! The rear I/O is packed out. If you need extra USB ports for that head massager plasma ball, there are a few better equipped ports. There are no less than 8 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, one of which is Type-C. These are joined by 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports. There are also BIOS clear and flashback buttons, the LAN and Wi-Fi antenna ports, and the usual set of audio ports including S/PDIF. So guys, that's all for the top 7 best AMD motherboard in 2022. The links of all products are given in the description, which are updated for the best prices. Subscribe our channel for more videos. We will meet in next video. Till then, take care. Bye.